Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay, lots of people connecting. We're going to wait just a minute or two more. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I don't know how to fade out. That was a DJ cut. Welcome, everybody. Um, Starting with style, we want to welcome you to this open mic webinar. I am Amber French, and I work with the International Center on Nonviolent Conflict. We will have interpretation. I'm going to go ahead and start it. All right. Okay. There will be a mix of English and French speakers today. Simultaneous interpretation is available in both languages. In order to select the English channel, or the English language channel, please click the planet icon, which is located at the bottom right of your screen, or you may need to locate the three dots and then choose the interpretation function, then select the English channel. You should be hearing the voice of the interpreter. Please signal in the chat any problem that you encounter. And the simultaneous translation function is not available on smartphones. So make sure that your microphone is muted when you don't speak as well. Les présentations seront faites en français et en anglais. Une interprétation simultanée est disponible dans les deux langues. Afin de sélectionner le canal français, nous vous invitons à cliquer sur l'icône de la planète qui est située en bas à droite de votre écran, ou de cliquer sur les trois points complètement à droite et de choisir la fonction interprétation. Choisissez ensuite le canal français. Vous devez entendre la voix de l'interprète. Signalez dans le chat si vous rencontrez des problèmes. La fonction interprétation n'est pas disponible sur les téléphones portables. Merci de n'allumer votre micro que lorsque vous intervenez. Okay? And now I'm going back to my English personality for the rest of the webinar. I'll be speaking English, and we have a great team of interpreters with us today. Go ahead and use the chat to introduce yourself. Our webinar participants, people are already doing that. and as a nice little fun icebreaker, to counter a lot of the difficulties going on in the world and to bring some joy into this space despite it all, I would invite you to, for example, share your name, your affiliation, the country that you're based in, and something that your country is known for. Okay? Okay. All right, let's see. Just a minute. I will be, I need to check something real quick, and I think that what we will do is we're going to get the interpretation up and running. I need to get one of our interpreters up and running. So in the meantime, I'll have everyone give everyone time to go ahead and introduce themselves in the chat. Okay, give me just 1 minute. We got to get our second interpreter up and running. All right, 1 second. We're going to remove him and we're going to put him back in. Justin.k.share. And all right. Okay, Justin, check your email, your Gmail, and you might need to log off and log back in using that link that you receive. We're going to be starting and keep us posted. All right. So I am Amber French of the React Research in Action collaboration. And today our listeners, you, get to meet our bloggers. The React collaboration is about 2 years old, a little bit more than 2 years old. And we exist to help make more connections between research and action, to put it simply. We use the ICNC blog, Minds of the Movement, to help amplify voices of activists and to better understand how writing is power. So that's why we're here today. And I want to invite you to use the chat to introduce yourself and also to go ahead and use, if you'd like, the Q&A function for questions. It's just easier to for us to find them. Okay. Are we good on interpretation, Justin? Okay. Okay, that's, I can actually do some as well. I can help out. I can put my French hat on until we figure this out. And if Justin, maybe you can put in the chat a second email for you. If you have a second email, I'll try a different email for you. Okay, so before we jump in, I just want to say that in this open mic, we have a couple of prepared performances, if you will, brief story pitches and story presentations, and then time for others to take the mic. Not everyone is comfortable talking about themselves. The goal of this webinar, the goal of React, is not for people to be self-absorbed or to make others believe that they are martyrs. The goal is to encourage our activist creatives and our activist writers to reflect on a moment in their past when the seed of nonviolent resistance germinated. We don't all become activists. Many of us are born into injustice and refuse to lie still or to be complicit with injustice and violence. But that seed of resistance was germinated at some specific moment in time earlier in our lives. And writing, among other powers that writing has, it helps us find that moment, to reconnect to ourselves and to find ourselves again in the mess that is activism, and to find a will to continue our struggle for rights, justice, and freedom. Writing is power. It builds power, both inner power and collective power, in dozens of ways. And we hope today that our listeners will come away from this webinar knowing now what story they can tell or what experience or knowledge they can channel for their own reconnection, or to better connect with others in this global struggle for rights, justice, and freedom. One last reminder, also to myself, is that many listeners speak English or French as a second language, and best practice for inclusion is to speak clearly and a bit more slowly than you normally would. And until I have further news, until we fix the interpretation issue, I will type notes into the chat in English or in French, and that will help tide us over until we fix the interpretation connection problem. Okay, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Rosie to kick things off, to get things started.
Thank you so much, Amber, and thank you to everybody who signed in, and also my fellow speakers. So my name is Rosie Mutene. I am from South Africa. I'm a feminist writer, I'm an activist, impact documentary producer, and also life coach. I have over 30 years experience in the media and entertainment industry, and 20 of those overlapping within the activist feminist space. As Amber said, activism finds us, and my journey found me after I had to heal from an abusive relationship. And so my activism is focused on women's rights, which was way back in 2003 when I did my first feminist political education training, and then again in 2007. Obviously now classified as gender-based violence, looking at queer rights and bodily autonomy. And so a lot of my work is focused on documenting and highlighting African feminist icons, their agency, their activism, their work. And once again, activism is always drawn from something that is personal. And in 2015, I unfortunately had to resign from my last acting job because I refused to take off my clothing or perform sexual acts or so-called sexual acts in a TV show. And one of the issues for me was that, first of all, I came in, the producers knew that I was a radical feminist and activist, so they should have known that I wouldn't stand for something like that. But that also speaks to the reality of how the work that we do, whether it's feminist work or work that activists do, it's always working on degrading and undermining our agency. And so one of the other arguments that I had with the producers was that it's a family show, and the channel that it was going to be on would never air it anyway, so why put the actor through that? Cut a long story short, I ended up resigning from the production. And it was a big step for me because I knew that that would bring an end to my acting career in South Africa, and which it did. The channel found out about it, and when the producers had to inform the cast and crew as to why, the true reason is why the channel had stopped the show, they opted to blame me, and so basically said to cast and crew, well, you can thank Rosie Mutene for losing your jobs. Fast forward to a couple of years after that, a group of us spoke up against a well-known perpetrator within the industry, whether it was sexual harassment, rape, physical abuse, and there were certain entities within the industry who had aligned with us and we thought were safe spaces, only to find out that they had aligned with the actual perpetrator and his abusers. And when we found out about it, particularly me, I was very vocal. To the extent that I took them to our Commission of Gender Equality, which I won, because they had issued a statement that the industry needed to stay away from me, which not only affected my business, but it also affected the counseling that I was offering other actors within the industry. And so with that is where, after my healing and having to deal with all these traumatic events, one of the things that I found solace in was in my writing. And writing my pain, writing down what I felt. And it took me way back to when I was a child. I was brought up in a white Jewish home. My mother was a domestic worker for this family. And it was in the midst of apartheid. I was born in 1974. And it was a time where I didn't believe that I had a voice. I didn't believe that my voice mattered. And so with me trying to understand and get to grips and process my identity crisis that I lived through, I would write in my little pink diary, which every year changed color and had a very, very cute golden clasp. And that was my sacred haven. Until much later on in life, when I went into therapy and had to deal with this identity crisis, did my therapist instruct me that actually just write it down in terms of my healing, which ultimately led me to write my autobiography. So in closing, writing for me has been my refuge. It has been my superpower. Because it is something that they could never take away from me. So even after being forced off set, I took to my blogs, I took it to the papers, I took it to wherever I could, because they can never take away what's here. They can try and silence here and they can try and silence here, but then the words can still always come out in my writing. So that is my story, and thank you so much for listening.
That is my story, and I'm sticking to it, as they say. Thank you, Rosie. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and to learn more about your journey. And thank you for being able to share with us, because I know that uh, it's difficult sometimes to put ourselves out there, and yet this comes from a place of edification, of bringing everyone up, raising everyone up, and supporting others. And so we know that personal sharing can be a form of education and of connection. So thank you so much. Okay, all right. We are going to go straight into Steward in just a moment. I want to check in with our interpreters and just see if, okay. What we might do when
Ouais.
our, yeah,
Salut Amber.
oui, bonjour Steward, juste un
Bon,
instant, oui. Yeah, one moment. Huh, okay. All right, so I think what I will do is I've done this before. This is not the first time I've done this, is I will be typing approximate translated subtitles into the chat when our first interpreter needs to take a break. And the typing will be terrible. It will be quick and we'll have many typos. So, but the message will get across so that our first interpreter can take a break when he needs to. And just raise your hand, Philippe, when you need to take a break. Okay? Yeah, awesome. All right, Stuart, on to you.
alors merci beaucoup Amber, merci Philippe pour la traduction. Et voilà, je m'appelle Stewart Mwindo, je suis militant de la Lucha. La Lucha, c'est un mouvement citoyen de République démocratique du Congo. C'est une lutte pour le changement. Et je participe aussi au projet d'écriture dans le cadre du projet React, qui est tenu par ICNC. Donc voilà, plus ou moins de manière brève, qui je suis et voilà, et ce que je fais. Je fais aussi, peut-être c'est important de le dire, je fais aussi la recherche sur la violence armée à l'est du Congo, dans le cadre d'un projet qui s'appelle Kivu Security Tracker, qui est, voilà, qui est géré par la société civile locale. Alors, déjà, pour moi, dans le cadre de la série d'articles qui va être publiée, je veux essentiellement parler de l'impact de réseaux sociaux sur le conflit armé qui est en cours dans mon pays. Comme on sait tous, on parle du Congo maintenant pour la guerre qui s'y déroule. Mais voilà, c'est une guerre qui est essentiellement connue comme se déroulant sur le terrain. Mais je pense que depuis l'essor des réseaux sociaux, la guerre investit aussi le champ des réseaux sociaux. Et moi, l'idée, c'est, en tant qu'activiste qui est confronté au conflit, qui est confronté à la diabolisation permanente sur les réseaux sociaux, c'est d'essayer de montrer quel est l'effet de, voilà, de cette guerre médiatique sur les activistes et comment, en tant qu'activiste, en tant que personne luttant pour la paix, pour la justice, on peut s'armer pour faire face à cette nouvelle forme de guerre qui se déroule sur les réseaux sociaux. Donc voilà plus ou moins ce que j'aurais à partager et c'est vraiment inspiré d'une expérience personnelle militante, du fait que la guerre qui se déroule au Congo, c'est aussi cette guerre-là où les personnes qui osent remettre en cause le choix des acteurs armés sont systématiquement attaquées, systématiquement diabolisées, systématiquement vilipendées. Et alors, pour moi, l'écriture, c'est aussi, c'est aussi le mode d'expression par excellence. Parce que voilà, la parole, on la tient et elle part, mais l'écriture, on l'exprime et ça reste. Et c'est pour ça que, évidemment, j'aime m'exprimer par l'écriture à travers les réseaux sociaux, à travers des blogs militants comme celui-ci. Parce que je pense que c'est vraiment un espace pour, voilà, pour transmettre, pour faire avancer nos causes, les causes que nous défendons, pour, pour transmettre la connaissance, parce que je pense il y a toujours de la connaissance que nous avons et que nous pouvons transmettre aux autres, mais il y a aussi pour partager l'expérience, parce qu'en tant qu'activistes, nous sommes confrontés aux défis qui ne sont peut-être pas similaires, mais vraiment qui peuvent inspirer d'autres personnes. Et je pense qu'à travers l'écriture, c'est un des moyens voilà, pour transmettre notre expérience. Donc, j'ai en tout cas hâte voilà, de pouvoir encore une fois participer à ce projet d'écriture, mais surtout de pouvoir lire aussi les expériences d'autres personnes. Heureux d'apprendre, par exemple, voilà, c'est intéressant de comprendre comment Rossi perçoit, par exemple, l'écriture, comment voilà, quelle est son expérience personnelle, comment elle essaie d'utiliser l'écriture. C'est aussi ça la force de l'écriture et c'est aussi pour ça voilà, que participer à des projets comme celui-ci est particulièrement intéressant. Donc voilà plus ou moins de manière brève c'est quoi mon background et c'est quoi l'article que je vais essayer de partager, en quoi je suis attaché à l'écriture.
Okay, thank you. Merci beaucoup, Stuart. Thank you. We are going to jump right into our next speaker, Merab. Over to you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Amba. Thank you, Rosie and Stuart. My name is Merab Ingabire, and I am from Uganda. I'm an activist from Uganda, and I also work with Solidarity Uganda as one of the leadership members there, and I also double as the advocacy and communications lead. At Solidarity Uganda, we basically train communities through non-violence resistance, and that's what I do. That's what I am a part of. I work with activists from grassroots communities across the country, and also in universities, youth, and women to wage non-violently. And my job really is to do the documentation. I do a lot of documentation for these communities, and I also express my voice. And my contribution to the struggles is really through writing. And as you may know, some of you, the Uganda, where I come from, is heavily restricted for writers. The space is so small and so restricted that writing is seen as a crime. So when we write, they see us as people that have weapons. Our pens, our computers are weapons that the state looks at. And so it's really difficult to actually write here. But it is also difficult, not because of just the state, but because of the sort of narrative that the state has portrayed around activist writers. So it is a challenge writing here because we don't have to just really stand against a repressive government, but we also have to defend and try to justify ourselves even in our communities. And it even gets, I think, more complicated when the communities, the movements that we are part of now, like the movements that I'm a part of in Uganda, they look at us as cowards. I can say that they only, value activists who they say go to the front line. So writing is not seen as a powerful tool for activism, yet we know writing is really powerful and it changes things. We have seen so many activists that have been persecuted, but also have seen activists who have left so many comrades that have been exiled because of their writing. So for me, I think it is just like really mind-boggling that people can look at writing as a safe avenue, yet really it's very risky for people in countries like ours, but even there are other countries I believe which are even really where writing is really dangerous. And so because of all these things that surround writing, I found myself in a place where I have to like struggle with my mental health, but also even with my comrades struggling with our mental health because of that isolation and because of the kind of communities that are surrounding us that look at us as rebellious, as people who are putting them at risk. So I just find that it is very important for me and for even other activist writers to actually deliberately step back and think about their mental health and do things deliberately to take care of their mental health, because it is from that kind a good place of our mental wellness that we can actually write, we can contribute to the different struggles that we are a part of. So and also to say that my article is already live and it's already published, and I would encourage us to go and read, see what I write about the dangers of using words as resistance. I also write about the kind of discrimination and mental toll that writing takes on us as activist writers. But I also write about how powerful writing is, because like Rosie said, like in a space where we can't even go to the streets, I think writing is a powerful avenue where we can actually use writing as not just a tool for resistance, but also as a shield. Because when I can't go to the streets, I can still write, even though it is really heavily censored sometimes. We can always find platforms like this project that ICNC is doing, where we can actually express ourselves. So I think I'm really excited about this and about how our words can transform our communities, our countries, and can change, our stories. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Checking in. You good, Philippe?
Yes, I'm good. I can
Great.
go on. I can go on.
Great.
Any news about Justin? No, Justin is not. Okay, I can go on for a little while. I'll show
Okay.
you. I'll signal.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. So we are going to go ahead and move on to, where are we at here? Virginie, I believe. Let's see, Virginie. Yes, Virginie, over to you. Oh, okay, 1 second, please. Virginie, une seconde. Yes. On fait un point? Non, c'est OK.
No.
All good. Virginie, over to you. À
No,
toi,
no,
Virginie.
no, Amber, il n'y a
Yeah.
pas d'interprétation.
Okay.
Interpreting is not on. The function is
Okay. All right. Oop. Okay. It should be fine now. Right? Yes. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. All right. In any case, I gave up on perfectionism when I became a mom. So, okay, over to you, Virginie. Maintenant, c'est à toi, Virginie. Over to you.
Bonjour, j'espère que vous m'entendez bien.
Yeah.
Est-ce que c'est OK? Parfait. Merci. Merci au projet et React. Merci à ICNC pour cette opportunité de s'exprimer, de parler d'Haïti. Donc, je m'appelle Virginie Pochon, j'ai 50 ans et je vis en Haïti depuis plus de 20 ans. Je suis membre fondateur du groupe d'action francophone pour l'environnement. Et mon article aborde plus spécifiquement la situation dramatique actuelle d'Haïti puisque Haïti est aux prises avec des gangs hyper violents qui sévissent dans les départements de l'Ouest et de l'Artibonite plus spécifiquement, en toute impunité. Dans mon article, je mets en perspective la situation actuelle avec la douloureuse et la magnifique histoire d'Haïti, empreinte des stigmates d'une exploitation sans limite des êtres humains et de la nature. Surtout, j'avais envie d'écrire sur les forces de résistance d'une société civile haïtienne qui s'organise pour résister et préparer la transition écologique et sociale. Donc, mon article, il met en lumière les actions des militantes et des militants du mouvement national citoyen Alternative à Haïti et de l'espace national d'organisation de la société civile revendicative qu'anime le groupe d'action francophone pour l'environnement. J'espère que ça ne va pas trop vite pour la traduction. Faites-moi signe si c'est OK. OK, super. J'ai choisi ce sujet parce qu'il me touche directement et indirectement. Et dans cet article, j'y évoque les sentiments que m'inspire l'actualité en tant que militante, en tant que femme et en tant que mère, tiraillée entre impuissance, imposture et lâcheté. Je me sens directement concernée parce que les bandits s'installent dans la commune où j'habite. Directement concernée parce que des collègues, des militantes et des militants sont obligés de se déplacer, de quitter leur domicile pour se réfugier dans des zones plus sûres. Directement concernés parce que des militants et des militantes sont victimes d'actes de barbarie dans l'Artibonite et dans certains quartiers populaires de la zone métropolitaine. Certains ont été assassinés, d'autres violés, d'autres kidnappés. Je me sens directement et indirectement concernée également, car je milite au sein du GAF, donc le groupe d'action francophone pour l'environnement, et d'Alternativa en Haïti pour un réveil citoyen pour la démocratie. Et pour moi, plus la situation se dégrade et plus notre combat est légitime, surtout dans un contexte mondial tendu où les démocraties néolibérales sont à bout de souffle. Alors, mon rapport avec l'écriture, forcément, il est très personnel. J'ai toujours aimé écrire des articles qui dénoncent l'absurdité d'un monde en décrépitude et des articles qui mettent en valeur la résistance citoyenne des Haïtiens et des Haïtiennes. J'écris pour ne pas me taire, car tout silence est complice et je ne veux pas être complice. L'acte d'écriture est un acte de résistance et un acte militant. Les personnes qui sont intervenues ont témoigné également en ce sens. Haïti est un petit pays que les grandes nations occidentales ont mis à genoux. J'écris contre l'invisibilisation d'Haïti. J'écris aussi pour créer des connexions. Et c'est une très, très belle opportunité aujourd'hui, avec d'autres luttes, et rencontrer des militantes et des militants pour ne pas rester isolés, pour ne pas s'essouffler, pour garder espoir, car il y a de l'espoir là où les citoyens et les citoyennes prennent conscience de leur pouvoir agir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I want to be conscious of time. We're going to jump right on to our next speaker, Amos.
Okay, thank you very much for this great opportunity. I love writing because I believe in it. I believe it is a tool against social injustices. And what I believe in nonviolent resistance against corruption, against political instability, against social inequalities, then I use writing to push those information to activists and social movement organizers so that they can understand that there is a better alternative to violent conflict, because I live in a country whereby we have a lot of conflict in communities. And whenever protest is going on, before you know, the protest turn to violence. So I believe that through writing, there's a possibility that those information about nonviolent strategy can get to my people so that they can be well informed that nonviolent resistance is a potent power against any form of injustice as an alternative to violent conflict. And that is why you can see in my React post, my recent React post, which is titled Lessons from Nigeria on Resisting State Narratives and Repression. The article highlighted 3 measures used by the Nigerian government to repress non-violent activists during the End Bad Governance in Nigerian protest in 2024, with a focus on Lagos State. The article also centers on the 3 countermeasures used by activists to counter the repression. And these 3 repression include the use of tradition and culture to create a climate of fear against the female gender not to come out and mobilize themselves for the protest. It also includes the hiring of thugs, allegedly by the Nigerian government, to unleash violence against peaceful protesters, to discourage a lot of people from coming out to protest. The 3rd measure used by the government is infiltration and propaganda, whereby the government started sending false narratives through the media that the protest is a faceless protest, discouraging people from coming out. I choose writing because I want to use it to inform the activists and the organizers out there that there is a better way to fight injustices, that there is no need to use violence, and to also make them understand the implication of using violent conflict. I also love doing that because I believe that is a way of expressing my grievances, because I grew up in an environment whereby there is a lot of social injustices. My father served the country for several years, and up till now, there's nothing to show for it. So that enough ignited my spirit that I think I need to do something for my generation so that the generations to come will not suffer the same thing. So I use it to express my grievances by writing several articles in a non-violent way that you can actually win right. You can actually fight injustice without shooting guns. You can actually undermine oppression without carrying bombs. You don't need to be a member of Boko Haram. You don't need to be a terrorist. I choose it to inform people to understand that if ordinary people come together to unite with a common goal, they can definitely defeat oppression. They can win right. They can win right. And I've been doing that since when I was in doing my undergraduate days. And I really want to appreciate the great opportunity given to me to use the React and the ICNC platform. In my training, because I train organizers, I train activists on how to fight injustices using non-violent method as an alternative to violent conflict. I see a lot of, some of them will say, is non-violent possible? How do we use non-violence? I was a little bit amazed. You are a member of civil society organization, yet you are yet to believe that non-violent is an alternative. What's actually your intention in the first place? Why are you a member of civil society organizations? So as time goes on, I discovered that they started believing in the idea of non-violence. And at times after the training, some of them will come to me and they'll ask me for where can I get resources so that I can learn more about nonviolence. And I have to send them some links and some documentaries about Mahatma Gandhi, about Martin Luther King Jr. And I can say that some of them are also catching up. So writing is a way of fighting for me. It's a way of fighting without using guns. It's a way of expressing my grievances without being a terrorist. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's move right on to Gabrielle.
Yes. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Super. Eh bien, bonjour tout le monde. Merci pour l'invitation. Bien évidemment, c'est avec grand plaisir que déjà j'écoute vos histoires et vos récits, puisque voilà, c'est la première fois que je vous écoute pour la grande majorité d'entre vous. Et merci aux personnes qui participent. Je m'appelle Gabriel Mazzolini. Je suis. Attends, est-ce qu'il me demande des choses là? Hop. Non, c'est bon, je vais pas. Je m'appelle Gabriel Mozzolini, donc je travaille aux Amis de la Terre France. Voilà, je milite depuis une vingtaine d'années, depuis tout jeune. Euh, je suis italien, je vis en France et je travaille dans cette ONG française qui s'appelle les Amis de la Terre, qui existe dans 85 pays. Donc c'est fort possible que dans l'un de vos pays, il y ait une organisation affiliée aux Amis de la Terre. Et depuis 10 ans, je fais de la construction de mouvements. Donc, très concrètement, les Amis de la Terre, donc, comme je le disais, c'est une fédération internationale qui existe dans 85 pays, qui existe depuis 50 ans maintenant, et qui, très rapidement, dans les années 70, a commencé à montrer le lien entre les activités humaines et les dégâts sur l'environnement et les populations humaines, très important pour nous. Et encore aujourd'hui, on continue à se mobiliser contre les grands pollueurs, les responsables donc, de ces dégâts environnementaux et du changement climatique, donc les banques, les multinationales et bien évidemment les pouvoirs publics, notamment la France qui, de par son passé colonial, n'est pas sans être voilà, un acteur extrêmement dommageable pour l'environnement partout dans le monde et pour les droits humains. Mon travail, donc la construction de mouvements ou movement building, comme on dit en anglais, en fait, ça n'a pas démarré tout de suite comme ça. Moi, j'ai commencé en organisant des actions directes, des actions non violentes, des actions de désobéissance civile, il y a une dizaine d'années, dans un contexte où en France, il y avait encore, en tout cas, il y avait un creux, il y avait plus trop de mobilisation sur les questions climatiques. Et en fait, au fur et à mesure, c'est devenu de la construction de mouvements. C'est presque devenu naturel, c'est-à-dire que de plus en plus de personnes participaient à ces campagnes, à ces actions, voyaient les liens entre euh, les agissements de leurs banques ou des multinationales et les projets climaticides dans le sud global ou même en France et participaient à ces actions. Et en fait, je pense que la désobéissance civile a réussi à canaliser une certaine colère et de fait, c'est devenu une communauté. Et donc, mon travail a beaucoup plus consisté à regrouper cette communauté, essayer de la renforcer, proposer des formations, organiser des grandes marches pour le climat, des opérations de désobéissance civile plus ambitieuses, et puis former de plus en plus d'activistes. Et du coup, le sujet que j'aimerais traiter, moi, dans l'article, c'est un sujet que je développe dans les formations euh, qui est un peu une métaphore, je dirais. Euh, une métaphore qui s'appelle horizon, montagne, ferme, ou ferme, montagne, horizon, peu importe l'ordre dans lequel vous le mettez. Euh, et l'idée de cette métaphore, c'est de sensibiliser à la question, à la notion de stratégie à travers une image qui est un peu plus simple à appréhender que ce langage très technique qui peut exister dans l'activisme, dans le militantisme non violent ou pas non violent hein, par ailleurs, et d'ouvrir un maximum les portes de la compréhension à le plus de personnes possible parce qu'on est dans une phase, je pense en particulier en France, hein, partout dans le monde, mais dans notre contexte français, dans une phase où je pense il y a besoin vraiment d'ouvrir les portes et de faire en sorte qu'un maximum de personnes puissent se sentir en capacité de changer les choses. Euh, je vous explique pas la métaphore maintenant parce que c'est l'objet de l'article, donc je vous laisserai lire l'article. Le pourquoi, en gros, il y a un peu trois raisons pour moi. La première, c'est la simplification, comme je l'évoquais maintenant. Je pense que c'est important de rendre accessible, aussi de démilitariser des notions comme stratégie, tactique, voilà, et les rendre accessibles, parce qu'on a besoin de comprendre comment ça marche sans rentrer dans la même logique et la même réflexion que nos adversaires qui sont dans la violence et dans la militarisation. Euh, je pense que ça permet aussi de concilier le temps long et le temps court. Vous verrez pourquoi dans l'article, mais Saul Alinsky, qui est voilà, un organisateur qui, dans les années 30, écrivait sur ces questions, disait l'ennemi qu'on ne voit jamais en tant qu'organisateur, euh, c'est le temps. Il y a toujours un adversaire va être notre cible et un autre adversaire au-delà de ça qui est le temps long qui fatigue les militants, qui fatigue les personnes qui s'engagent avec nous et qui fait perdre l'espoir. Et donc, pour moi, cette image, elle permet de concilier le besoin dans le temps court d'obtenir des victoires qui sont importantes pour un mouvement et l'espoir de fonder une société meilleure dans un temps long qui doit nous servir de cap pour le combat. Euh, pour ce qui concerne l'écriture, alors moi je suis un peu un prosaïque de ça, c'est-à-dire que pour ce qui concerne en tout cas la lutte non violente et les mouvements sociaux, je suis un gros consommateur de réseaux sociaux, comme d'autres personnes je pense, donc énormément de production vidéo, énormément de travail aussi avec les influenceurs en ligne parce que c'est ça qui marche. Et voilà, en travaillant dans une organisation. Pour nous, c'est fondamental de pouvoir utiliser les outils qui nous permettent de toucher le plus loin possible. Donc, les réseaux sociaux sont une partie centrale de notre lutte. Et en même temps, le revers de cette médaille, c'est que ben, il y a peu d'écrits. En tout cas, sur ce qui concerne les luttes non violentes, je pense notamment aux luttes de masse les plus récentes, que ce soit le mouvement pour le climat sur lequel on a travaillé, ou le mouvement des Gilets jaunes, qui n'était pas, a commencé comme un mouvement non violent et est devenu autre chose. En fait, il y a peu de littérature là sur ces questions, et ça me semble important qu'on ait des récits qui valorisent la résistance non violente euh, face à des récits dominants qui sont nocifs pour moi, c'est-à-dire soit les récits des puissants qui nous accusent d'être des écoterroristes, soit les récits de groupes qui sont plutôt antagonistes et qui considèrent que la violence est la seule voie. Répondre à la violence par la violence, c'est la seule voie dans le mouvement social. Et si en fait on ne produit pas de littérature de notre côté, bah, c'est clair que ceux qui veulent écrire l'histoire l'écriront. Euh, voilà, et donc après, dans les inspirations écrites voilà, que j'utilise pas mal, que ce soit dans les formations ou même moi en tant qu'individu, c'est beaucoup tout ce qui a été écrit par Popovitch, donc comment faire chuter un dictateur quand on est petit, faible et sans armes, par exemple, d'autres livres comme Joyeux bordel, des livres qui permettent un petit peu de prendre du recul, se rendre compte aussi que beaucoup de choses ont été faites dans le passé et aussi en fait que le panel d'actions non violentes est très très large. C'est bien de revenir à ça de temps en temps pour retrouver de l'énergie, de l'inspiration et repartir au combat. Voilà, donc j'espère que ça vous plaira en tout cas. Et merci de m'avoir écouté.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabrielle. This is great. I've been addressing some of the questions and facilitating some of the questions coming through in the chat because we don't have much time left. So we're going to move directly to our second to last speaker, Sarah, and then we're going to end with a poetry reading. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Amber. Hi, everyone. It has been great to be hearing all these amazing stories. My name is Sara. I'm a human rights activist and anthropologist in Puerto Rico. I focus mostly on the colonial work, and that entails being an educator as well as promoting food sovereignty as a form of political power, or decentralizing power, to be more precise. But it's important to understand the context of Puerto Rico a little bit. Puerto Rico is often considered to be the oldest colony in the world. It was first occupied by Spain since 1493, and now currently by the United States since 1898, after the Spanish-American Civil War. Sorry, the Spanish-American War broke out. Puerto Rico was ceded along with Cuba, Guam, and the Philippines. And so Puerto Rico the context of Puerto Rico is the Caribbean context, and I think that as a region, geographically speaking, the Caribbean holds the most colonies in the world, and these colonies are still controlled by former European empires. And so what tends to happen in the Caribbean, these colonial powers, under the pretensions of some legality, keep these possessions as colony, and they get transformed into service economies, right? Service economies, meaning they serve the tourist, they're more geared toward foreign rich investors, which is really a way of maintaining their imperial interest. And so in this regard, I think that as an introduction, considering the Caribbean, that it was the first frontier of the European empire, right, in its colonization in the late 1400s, but that is still the last frontier as a region for the decolonization, right? And that includes Puerto Rico, which is a colony of the United States. And when I mean colony, I mean in its classical definition of colonialism. And so for me, writing in this context is a space of convergence, right? My activism and militancy and thought process happens through writing. And I often, as an anthropologist and as a farmer as well, I position myself, in as a culture mediator, right, between that decolonization process and what we're experiencing right now of colonization. And so writing allows me to articulate resistance. It helps me shape narratives as well. And even in cases even in internal organizations, where, for example, writing letters, I think, has been in a social radical part of international resistance before the internet. And so even writing, anti-racist letters, right, to create a safer space for people of color. So it has become, a very essential tool to that, as well as writing publicly. So yeah, activism through writing is a very real tool, and we often use it to critique these power structures, but not only to critique it, but also to propose alternatives. And it reminds me a lot of an activist from Bolivia. She's an indigenous, I think she's a lot of things. She's also a philosopher and sociologist, Aymara, Silvia Rivera Cusicanqui, because we live in a world with the words are in crisis, right? The definitions, the concepts. And so, but language is so crucial to the work that we do as activists, because not only are we defending something, but we are also trying to create an alternative of that vision. So we are simultaneously doing a lot of things at once. And in the process in Puerto Rico, where colonization is meant to corrode memory, right? And to fragment communities. And so, yeah, writing holds a very radical space in what we do as a process of resistance and as an act of creation as well, and envisioning the future that we really want. And so through this, Puerto Rico has had a very long history of successful civil resistance struggles. One of them, well, there are many of them that began as early as the 1800s with the English imposition. We speak Spanish in Puerto Rico, and also in the strikes in the 1930s, we also have one of the successful movements where we ousted the U.S. Navy in Vieques and Culebra through a nonviolent conflict, which is, I think, one of the first cases in the world where it wasn't through an armed struggle. And we have also liberated political prisoners as well. And most of this is done through networking and writing. And we're also currently fighting a lot for the beaches, for them to remain public as they are protected on the Puerto Rican Constitution. And so in this area and work of decolonization, one of the things that, to finish up, one of the things that I want to emphasize is that through writing, we preserve territory, right? And that territory is both things, it's two things, it's both geographical and it's cultural. And so, because that's a fight for land, and I think that writing is also an essential part for any struggle, especially a decolonial struggle, because we are really fighting for our dignity. We're really fighting for our humanity, right? And for the to show that we really can have alternatives, right? That they're not so much out there or far-fetched ideas as they try to, you know, silence a lot of the activism work that we do. And so yeah, my article will be focusing on that, the colonization struggle in Puerto Rico. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. We are back on. We are onto our last couple of minutes. I hope everyone will stick around just maybe 2 minutes over time to listen to the rest of our to the full presentation poetry reading of our last speaker. Over to you, Sungu. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, thank you. I hope you can hear me clearly. Thank you, Rosie, Stewart, Merab, Virginie, Amos, Gabriel, and Sarah, plus the team at ICNC for putting this together. My name is Sungu. I'm a writer and an activist from Kenya. I write mostly on Pan-Africanism, political economy, and contemporary politics across the African continent. And my activism is political activism. I'm a member of Kongamano la Mapinduzi, which is a political movement here in Kenya. So today I'm gonna read you guys 3 poems. The first is titled Revoltisms. The second is Contradictions and Lamentations. And the last one is The People's March Continues. And so I'll start with Revoltisms. Revoltisms. Last evening I fell in love with her, girl from Nyahera, the gleaming eyes, the nose that twitched when she smiled. That smile makes my heart race and my thinking slower. Last evening we went up the hill, sat under a mugumu tree, and stared at the ridge below us, at that place where our grandfathers were executed for waging resistance against the oppressors. From Kilimambogo, we stared at the city, its expansive outline sprawled below us, the lights embedded in concrete, the darkness swallowing the unsafe alleys, the mansions obscuring the rambling valleys. The concrete had replaced the cassava fields in Kajulu. The concrete stones continue replacing the sugar farms in Kakamega. The concrete jungle continues replacing the peasant farms in Kiambu. The concrete stones reduce the grazing fields in Kajiado. The concrete stones create more holes on the ground, and the concrete obscures many national skeletons. The African still loves with the heart, mind, and soul. The puppeteer still lurks behind objects and projects, from the shadows pulling strings that dictate preference and progress. We kissed under the cover of darkness and recalled the day we met, that rainy November at Comrade's Corner, when I locked eyes with Nyanya Hera, her thick afro running wild over her bandana. Big, black, beautiful eyes staring blankly at me. 12 seconds was all I needed to raise the white flag. Patience is unknown in this love. Me, in love. She, talking about Pan-Africanism, feminism, socialism, revoltisms. We were perfectly headstrong. Last night we got home, threw ourselves on our cushion, and watched their television. Our ears were assaulted by their media and its relentless talk of peace. They considered justice unimportant. Did that force us to seek a just world? That's the end of the first poem, titled Revoltisms.
And it basically speaks to a lot of the happenings in our countries, because most of the countries, at least in Africa, basically are neo-colonial states, in that their economic and political superstructure is determined in other parts of the world. And you know, the neo-colonial state is created in the image of the colonial state. If you look at the levels of violence and war and everything in these states, it's a really sad state of affairs. And the second poem I'll read you is titled Contradictions and Lamentations. Contradictions and Lamentations. Have you ever gone to school in the morning, not sure whether you'll be educated by evening? Have you ever received a salary, knowing it can't last more than a week? Have you ever seen a land so beautiful? Have you ever seen a people so beautiful? Have you ever seen dreams stifled and shattered so? So much land for so much landlessness. So many public servants and such little public service. Too many experts, very little expertise. Too many contradictions. So many workers for such little work. So many lovers for such little love. Very many humans and such little life. Too many contradictions and lamentations. As I look for the last poem, which is titled The People's March Continues. So this is a poem that I actually love a lot because it reminds me of so many things. I wrote it in 2020 during on every year on August 7th, there is the protests in Kenya called Sabasaba. And these protests emerged from the 90s, when there was the struggle for multi-party democracy, the struggle to open up political space and to move from the one-party dictatorship that Kenya was in the 80s. And on the 7th of June 1990, there was huge protests all over Kenya. And every year, even the generations that came after continue to hold marches and protests to bring to the fore the issues that confront them and their communities. And this poem, The People's March Continues, I wrote it on the 7th of August, 2020, in the protest. It was written at a protest because I think things got hectic and poetry became refuge for me. But you know, as Tony Kade Bambara says, the role of the artist, or we who could be a musician, a writer, or any form of art, but the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And so this protest poetry, I feel, for me, is also one way of putting our ideas across and keeping hope alive. And so the last poem I'll read you is titled The People's March Continues. With backs against the wall, with resistance of student and firebrand, with solidarity of intellectuals and clergy, with unity of people and organization, the people dutifully engaged in their struggle against power. Armed only with grandma's wisdom, they started there where they were standing, or sitting, or being, or becoming. They started there, found others, gathered, marched on amidst tear gas and teary eyes, bullets and brute force, despotism and detentions. Many paid the ultimate price before Section 2A was repealed. And 30 years later, the people recall their history. Demanding their dignity and humanity, they listen to grandma again. Start there where you are standing, or sitting, or being, or becoming. Start there, find others, gather. The disenfranchised gather to express dissatisfaction. The dispossessed march for social justice. Our youth march for their lives. The people's march continues. Emboldened by impunity, the anti-people march on too. But one day, not far from today, the people will outmarch the anti-people. The people we'll keep on marching. Thank you.
Thank you, Sungu. I met Sungu. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to put myself back in English. Okay, I was hearing myself in French. Story of my life. I had the pleasure of meeting Sungu a couple of months ago, and I listened to him read his poems around a campfire, and I was speechless. So thank you so much, Sungu, for sharing your poems. Yeah, I'm blown away. I agree with you, and I also your voice. You know, your voice. I'm so glad that these words have leapt off the page for you and for us, and that they don't stay just written, but also spoken. I was operating on the assumption that we were going to wrap up at 5:30. To my wonderful surprise, I just remembered that we're going until 6 o'clock, another 25 minutes. So I just won a bonus, and we did too. We would like to open up the mic to anyone who would like to speak among our participants. I think that you're able to. Yeah, I can allow anyone to talk if you raise your hand. And I was already addressing, helping facilitate the responses of a lot of questions over chat. And I did my best to put them in English and in French. Would anyone like to take the floor? This is a good time to ask any additional questions. Perhaps in hearing other stories, you know now a story that you should tell. Victoria, I think you have your hand up. I will pass the mic over to you. And there we go.
Hello. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you can see me though.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah. I would like to really thank you about this meeting. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I never really thought deeply about the non-violent way of resisting to problems. I would really like to hear or maybe have some recommendations of books where I could hear or read some stories where of successful nonviolent protests and yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Sure. I will leave it up to our speakers to step up. If anyone would like, we can take a second question while we're waiting. For our interpreter, Philippe, I'm happy to facilitate question and answer. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Victoria, okay, no, we're going. We're continuing. Okay, we're continuing. All right. Thank you so much. Theodore, I will allow you to talk now. We're going to take 2 or 3 questions, and then we will see if any of our speakers would like to speak up. Okay, Theodore, say it's for you. It's over to you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. As I see we have someone who can translate, I can speak in French. I can speak in French, yes. D'accord.
Yes, you can. Please speak
D'accord.
in the
Merci
language that
beaucoup tout le monde.
you're comfortable with.
Merci madame, messieurs. Merci de cette opportunité de suivre les exposés très enrichissants de mes collègues, de tout le monde que j'ai suivi avec beaucoup d'intérêt. En tout cas, un grand merci. J'ai suivi beaucoup de militants comme nous, notre collègue de la lucha. Et en tout cas, je suis vraiment très impressionné. Je vous rappelle que je suis Théodore Toimirefu. Je suis en RDC à Bukavu, ici au Sud Kivu, une zone déjà aujourd'hui occupée par les rebelles du M23, ici une des villes de la RDC où la liberté n'est pas une garantie, la liberté de manifester, la liberté d'opinion et de tous les mouvements, où on a assisté à beaucoup de répressions, des mouvements citoyens dont en premier la lutte, et beaucoup d'autres mouvements citoyens quand même qui ont eu naissance après les situations que vous connaissez des justices, manque de liberté, la démocratie, elle est aux enchères, mais aussi l'autre aspect très important que je vois aujourd'hui, et je vis beaucoup d'intervenants, ils sont revenus. Il y a la question de la justice sociale et des changements climatiques. Bon, aujourd'hui, je suis aussi en train de travailler sur les changements climatiques parce que j'ai fait mon master en économie appliquée à l'environnement et au changement climatique. Je suis activiste d'épée également. Ce que je vais dire que je suis vraiment très impressionné. Je suis très enchanté par les interventions d'autres parce que j'ai fait un voyage dans beaucoup d'autres villes de notre pays, bon, spécialement à Lubumbashi. Je vis qu'il y a aussi une question très importante sur laquelle les gens devraient s'éveiller, qui est des changements climatiques. Les gens ne sont pas encore éveillés sur les dangers qui guettent l'environnement. Alors, comme activiste, je suis en train de voir comment tous les champs des changements sociaux, tous les champs de la justice et de la démocratie, c'est une importance capitale sur laquelle l'ICN continue à travailler sur ça. Je pense que c'est un aspect vraiment très encourageant. Autre chose, une autre recommandation que j'aimerais donner, c'est que on devrait pas baisser les bras dans le travail que vous faites. Vous faites un très bon travail, c'est un bon travail. Et les échanges comme ça sont très importants et ça devrait en tout cas se multiplier, continuer à atteindre d'autres militants. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, ici, chez nous, à Bukavu, on avait travaillé, d'ailleurs, c'est une question aussi très importante, sur laquelle nous travaillons aussi pour voir comment est-ce que les mouvements citoyens peuvent se mettre ensemble. C'était un grand défi. Est-ce qu'il y a moyen de mettre cette cohésion, de créer cette cohésion de tous les activistes? C'est ce que déjà vous commencez à faire, je vois. Cette cohésion entre activistes va rendre toute l'élite très efficace et moins dangereuse. Parce que l'élite ici, elles sont dangereuses parce que les gens n'ont pas les mêmes objectifs. Et tout ça, c'est parce que beaucoup de mouvements citoyens ne sont pas formés, n'ont pas accès aux ressources documentaires, ne sont pas documentés, ne lisent pas d'autres personnes qui font la lutte comme eux. Je pense que ça va vraiment ouvrir une grande voie ici. Je vais peut-être donner un témoignage que je voudrais vraiment donner. C'est aussi c'est aussi un aspect important où je vis. Il y a juste une formation que j'ai suivie avec le fait Jean de Dialungui. Il est déjà mort, paix à son âme. Il a même écrit un guide sur la non-violence active. C'est un document très important que j'ai trouvé d'ailleurs sur les sites de l'organisation qui nous réunit aujourd'hui. C'est vraiment un document qui nous inspire. Alors, je préfère que les initiatives comme ça continuent à se multiplier et que les activistes et les militants de ces côtés, de partout dans le monde, continuent à y accéder et que les réseaux soient agrandis, pas partout même, parce que c'est une question, si je peux dire, existentielle pour que les gens continuent à lutter. Merci beaucoup, vraiment, je suis très content. Et je continue à manifester l'intérêt de continuer à suivre et de continuer à être formé et d'informer les autres autour de nous. Et je rappelle que je suis journaliste ici en RDC. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, a journalist, duly noted. You're on our radar. Thank you so much, Theodore. Would anyone else like to speak? I thought I
Merci
saw one more
beaucoup. Je vous en
hand.
prie, Philippe.
Sorry, say it again. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, great. I thought I saw another hand sneak up. Are there any replies to questions? Yeah, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Amber. I kind of quickly want to say something about the two questions regarding reading and just kind of more like comment on it than anything, but because I also work on the education aspect of things, And I do that at various organizations. I have my own school of civil resistance where I try to bring these topics. So regarding the question about books, it's very hard for me to mention one book right now because I can actually go home and give you a whole list of them. But I think like for searching for books, I will answer more like that because I don't know where the person is coming from. But I think it's all very important to understand the history of your people, your country, and the struggles. Getting to know the struggles, environmental struggles that they have had in the past or currently having, um and seeing culture. That is very valuable to understand the culture and the way that people have used culture to resist in the past in your locality. And with that, and kind of to tie it with what the other person was saying, it's also to understand that that revolution is scientific. It's very scientific, right? We're not pulling things out of thin air. We're not inventing anything. It's very scientific. It has been known for a very long time. So I think when I say that it's scientific, then that for me, that means that we also have to understand or try to understand how power structures work. How does the state work? What is it that make the state, right? Like, for example, one of the things I emphasize, this trade is based on three things, right? And its ability to sanction, its ability to carry out that sanction, and the monopoly of violence. And so, it's just little things that we understand how power structures work is very important because with that, we can understand what racism is and why it doesn't exist at the inverse. For example, because we're talking about structures and the revolution is scientific. And with that, I want to finish off so somebody else can speak. But with that, I want to say that for me, the most radical aspect that I've come to understand, and it has been the past few years, is that uh, the revolution is in the moment. Is where you take care of your family, your neighborhood, those around you, those people in your organization, because they're places that the state cannot reach, right? And that's for me why I center food, because we all eat every day. And so it is a way to insert yourself with food. You don't even have to talk anything about politics, but at the same time, food decentralizes power. Because when you centralize the production of food, you centralize power as well. And this is social sciences, right? So I want to share that. Thank you.
I love that. That's yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Did you raise your hand, Gabrielle? Or maybe not. No, sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought I saw a gesture. Anyone else would like to speak to one of the questions or ask a new one? And while we are waiting, I wanted to remind everyone to scroll up in the chat if you'd like to find, and I can put it again in a few minutes, the link to sign up for our blog newsletter. We send just a couple out a year, and we announce webinars, we announce new articles, and we publish. We started in 2017, but React dates back to a little more than 2 years ago. And since 2017, we have published more than 330 articles by more than 150 writers who are activists, academics, NGO professionals, journalists from easily a couple of dozen countries. And in the React project, we've published some 40 articles in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, all by activists, all written by activists. And I'm so grateful to you all for the opportunity to have grown so much as an editor who is based in the global north or the global minority countries. I've grown so much in my view of writing for solidarity and not just for performance or as an NGO communication tool. As I've come to really appreciate that writing needs to that there's extraction doesn't have a place in NGO programs that support movements and activists. Extraction has no place. There's ways that we can do writing programs better that are rooted more in solidarity and that are activist forward. And we are always looking for ways to improve. This year, I'm excited to announce that we are recruiting regional editors. We'll be sharing information soon. So we're going to have 2 or 3 activists who are going to be regional editors commissioning articles and taking on more responsibility. I'm super excited about that. Okay, great. John, over to you. And I think you have the floor. We can't hear you. Let's see. Yeah, we can't hear you as of now. Let me try. So yeah, John, I'm gonna pass the mic over to Eve right now because I'm not able to hear you. Is anyone else able to hear him? Okay. All right. Let's. Sorry about that. We'll come back to you if we can. Over to Eve.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm Yves Ibana. Let's say, I'm attending this webinar from Gabon. I think it's a not very well-known country, but anyway, it's a French country actually. I will speak in French then. Alors, je suis très intéressé par, on va dire, le sujet qui a été abordé. Parce que, alors, à travers ce sujet, je vois l'importance en fait de écrire dans la sensibilisation des populations sur leurs droits et le pouvoir qu'ils peuvent avoir pour pouvoir faire changer les choses. C'est très important parce que, en fait, en général, beaucoup de personnes ne comprennent pas souvent les outils ou le pouvoir que l'on peut avoir pour pouvoir faire bouger les choses. Et donc, je pense que c'est vraiment, enfin, pour moi, c'est très important et très intéressant parce que je suis dans un pays où, en général, déjà, hein, dans l'ensemble, les gens sont très peu. La notion d'activisme, elle est mal perçue, elle est mal comprise, elle est mal définie. On voit souvent ça un peu comme des personnes qui sont agressives et autres, alors que là derrière, je vois que activiste ici, c'est plutôt dans le sens de faire bouger les choses, mais de façon non violente. Et c'est moi un sujet assez important et très, qui pour moi, en fait, c'est quelque chose que je pars avec aujourd'hui assez constructif. Et je pense que je vais essayer autour de moi de vulgariser cette arme-là. J'aurais peut-être une question, on va dire, pour Merab particulièrement, mais aussi à l'ensemble des panélistes ici. En fait, c'est surtout, alors, quelles difficultés on peut avoir, en fait, d'écrire dans un environnement où la liberté d'expression n'est même pas autorisée, en fait. Voilà, c'est quelque chose qui pour moi, alors, comme je disais tantôt, hein, au Gabon, on connaît très peu, ou du moins l'activisme est très mal perçu, parce que ça a une connotation purement très négative. Donc, du coup, ça peut souvent, on va dire, freiner les gens dans cette volonté d'écrire, ne serait-ce qu'un texte qui vise à sensibiliser, qui vise à attirer l'attention. Voilà. Donc, comment est-ce qu'on peut, je vais dire, avoir cette force de pouvoir écrire, tout en sachant que derrière, les représailles peuvent être parfois violentes sur la personne qui écrit. Voilà, merci encore.
Okay. Yeah, Rosie.
Okay, so I mean, I write from a particular hostile environment, but not as restricted as, for instance, Uganda or other territories. But on that, and I didn't mention it in my intro because I ran out of time. So we doing the documentary on Stella Nyanzi, who is the activist, a Ugandan activist and feminist who was put into jail because of her writing and writing on her poetry. And so to answer your question, how we have strengthened that voice and we'll try to strengthen that voice and amplify it a lot more is by allies outside who can reinforce that. So one of the reasons why I came on board as the co-producer from South Africa is that we needed to get some of that footage out of Uganda because it was about to be seized by the authorities. When Stella printed her new book, it wasn't printed in Uganda. Part of it was printed in Germany. In fact, that's where her pen writership came from, and it was printed in South Africa. So for the writing needs to happen, but it's also about the collaborations and synergies that you can create outside. So when you are silenced, you do have other voices who are speaking for you. Mona Altahiwe speaks speaks a lot on Stella's work, on West African activist work, because she's gotten out of Egypt, she lives in New York and can speak freely, and she understands what it takes to be in a territory where you are restricted.
Great. Yes, Merab.
Yeah, and to just really add to what Rosie has said, Stella Nyanzi is in exile because she actually writes. She's a writer, and that's why she's really in exile. And I think we also have other activists like Kakwenza, who is also in exile because of his writing. So it's really hostile here. And just like we basically can't even publish certain kinds of writing in Uganda. It's just really censored. Media houses won't work with us. You send them work and they will just bounce it, say it's risky, they can't publish it. So the best way to actually get our work out there and to get our voices heard is when we collaborate with allies that are out of Uganda, and that is where platforms like this blog and so many other platforms come in, and they've been really helpful in getting our work across, but also like just really having that sort of solidarity from like across the borders. It's really helpful for activists at risk in environments like ours. Today we had a by-election and so many journalists have been arrested. So many have been beaten. They're in hospital right now. Today I had to keep at home because I couldn't risk getting out because of the by-election that is just right where I live. And so it's just risky just being a writer. So you have to find ways of getting your voice heard. If those around you don't want to listen to it because it's not in their favor, then you have to find people that can ally with you. They can, publish your work, that can get your voice heard. And the most, I think, beautiful thing about it is that when our work is out there, is international platforms, it's not just going to be read by Ugandans, it's also read by people from other countries who may be, going through the same challenges. So it builds that sort of solidarity, but also that kind of protection from allies from, across the borders. Yeah.
Okay, we are at the end of our time. I feel like we could keep this going forever, and I would love to, but I want to thank everyone for their sharing, for opening up and sharing a page of their book with us. I always say that writing is an extension of our bodies. It's an extension of our humanness. And for many of us who can identify as writers or natural born writers who have sort of even a primordial urge to write, it's literally an extension of our fingers. It's right at our fingertips, or an extension of our voices. And so thank you everyone for opening up your books and sharing a page with us. It raises the level for all of us, and it gives us fodder for building community. Thank you, everyone, and I hope that you have a nice evening. I'm going to put the sign-up link in our blog link in the chat, and you guys can all check back soon. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Can we do a selfie quickly?
Yes, go for it.
Hey, everyone put your cameras on.
Yes, do it. Oh, thank you, Rosie. Thank you for doing that. You are the best. Doing a screenshot. Whoever would like to do a
Yes, wait
screenshot.
for it.
Ready? 1, 2.
Beautiful.
She's
Thank
always
you.
thinking. She's always thinking.
She's always
Yeah.
thinking. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, Amber. God bless you.
You too.
Okay.